Life is a beautiful laboratory. If you're hoping that an escape from life will solve life, I don't think it will.
And can you really undo the years of damage?
If this moment I'm laughing, how does it matter how many wrinkles I have and so on and so forth? I cannot undo the physical for sure. Anti-aging is a myth.
Yeah.
But aging with grace, living with grace, maybe I cannot remove the trauma, but I've made peace with it.
And you think yoga helps in that?
It is specifically that. Once you know who you are, then it's much easier to act in the world.
Yeah.
Yoga is meant for people who are tired of happiness. It sounds impossible until Manish Paul explains what it really means. In this episode of Expressions, we explore attention, trauma, modern wellness, and how yoga can help us live with greater clarity.
Hi, welcome to Expressions. I'm Neha. Today I'm joined by Manish Paul, who's a yoga practitioner and into wellness. Let's get to know how he discovered yoga, wellness, and changed lives. Let's get into it. Hi Manish, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you,
Joining
Neha.
us. So you didn't find yoga looking for God. You found it because you missed deadlines.
I began life as an advertising copywriter, and then very quickly I realized we were working long hours, but I didn't have the focus to get the work done. And so I started to ask around, what can I do to improve my focus? Somebody suggested yoga. I went in for a class, fell in love with the subject.
Yeah.
And at that point, my teacher said that if you want to learn meditation, you come and live with me.
Okay.
I realized that this is a lifelong study. And then I shifted from, as I joke, from deadlines to a lifeline.
Okay.
that was the process.
So you fixed your attention span decades before dopamine detox was a buzzword. What did you actually do?
Just the simple fact, attention is a question of more than a skill that you train, which it also is. It's about removing the things that you don't need.
Yeah.
And that, once you can do, then attention is but natural.
And you think yoga helps in that?
It is specifically that.
Okay. A tech CEO spends millions to live forever. You sat still for 7 years. So who's got it right?
Well, I didn't just sit still,
Yeah.
but that was the process.
Yeah.
I think both are right in their own way. The gentleman, that Brian Johnson, who's trying to sort of spend so much for longevity, is training himself to optimize the body and therefore the mind to live very long. And a yogi is, or a meditator is trying to figure out who he or she is. So through that process, you become comfortable with life and therefore with the passing on of life.
Yeah.
So the goals are different.
Yeah.
So therefore, each is optimizing for their goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to compare because one is trying to live long, one is trying to understand who they are.
Yeah. When is running away actually the right move? Can you turn back the clock and can you really undo the years of damage?
Running away is never the right move. But sometimes you need to take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
And that step back is your way of solving the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not running away. But when I'm in the Indian context, we always look at the Gita.
Mm-hmm.
So when Arjuna has a moment of crisis and he has to take a step back because his nervous system is completely warped. And at that point, he takes that moment to understand who he is before he can act. So that is not running away. In fact, he's asked not to run away by Krishna. But specifically to just, once you know who you are, then it's much easier to act in the world.
Yeah.
So not running away for sure, but just figuring out, taking the time to figure out. If it means some time on a Sunday or a few minutes every day, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah. And can you really undo the years of damage?
Yes. At the end of the day, you can only solve for this moment, but this moment is clouded by years of memories.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can solve for this moment, if you can be happy and joyful in this moment, it would mean understanding all your triggers from the past.
Mm.
So if this moment is joyful, would you consider that as undoing of all that's happened? I would. So I'm asking,
Yeah, I think so.
in a way, right?
Yeah.
If this moment I'm laughing, how does it matter how many wrinkles I have and so on and so forth? I cannot undo the physical for sure. Anti-aging is a myth.
Yeah.
But aging with grace, living with grace. Maybe I cannot remove the trauma, but I've made peace with it.
Yeah,
So that would be the undoing, in my opinion.
sure. So you often refuse to call yourself anything, not even a yoga teacher. So is labeling ourselves really a trap?
100%.
Yeah.
For the next 20 minutes, my functional identity is concerned with yoga, so that we can have this discussion.
Yeah.
When this podcast is over and we are sitting and chatting at the dining table, if we are still talking about yoga, then you know I'm trapped in my identity.
Yeah.
Even a golden cage is still a cage.
Mm-hmm.
But after this, if we are sitting and chatting and maybe we're talking about movies or sport, then it's fine,
Yeah.
right? But if I'm consistently in my identity, then method acting will make me berserk.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the next 20 to 30 minutes, this is my functional identity. But if it stays beyond its function, then it becomes dysfunctional.
Yeah. There's just so much content available today that many people end up overdiagnosing themselves. So do you think that's happening? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there is a lot of content out there. And I mean, it's up to people. Some people like silk, some people like cotton, some people like jute. So some people, I mean, sometimes you look at something and say, how idiotic. But there are people who love that. So then if it's working for them,
Yeah.
and as long as it's not lies, as long as it's not non-factual, opinions can vary.
Yeah.
So somebody's opinion may be this, somebody's opinion may be that.
Sure.
But as long as it's not lies, then
But it's hard to differentiate that, right? You have to
Yeah.
have that presence of mind.
today with AI, you can do a quick Google
Yeah,
search,
yeah.
and you'll know if somebody is saying that 5 out of 10 people have thought of committing suicide. You can do a quick check and
Yeah.
test that. If you're not checking that, then if you're getting fooled by that content, then probably
Yeah.
there's a problem.
So some say we're not drowning in information, we're drowning in poor filters, and we're unable to decide which voices deserve our attention. So in a world of endless wellness experts, conflicting protocols, and 30-second reels, how does someone actually quiet the noise and figure out what's worth listening to without adding mindfulness to the list of things they feel they're failing at?
You have to have a problem statement.
Uh-huh.
So I have a problem with focus. So I will take on content. I'm saying for any of our listeners. So I take on only that content which deals with focus. So if I get information about what my diet should be or what something else should be, then you don't take it on for now. Right now you're focused on one problem. If you're not trying to solve a problem, then it's all noise. But if you're trying to search for one solution, then you'll go for that, and very quickly you'll know what is wrong, what is right. But if you're looking for wellness advice as entertainment, then of course, like Hollywood does a much better job. You don't need information to be entertaining all the time. But it starts with a problem. If you have a problem that you're searching for, you'll find the solution.
How connected is yoga and mindfulness? Do you think, I mean, these days people go on to doing meditation, mindfulness, there's like a to-do list for everyone. So what are your thoughts on that?
Can I take a moment to define yoga?
Yeah.
So currently, if you could say this, I have the ability, if my back is paining, I have the ability to say my back is paining. So it implies there's some distance between me and my back. But when I'm sad, I don't have the ability to say my mind is sad. I say I'm sad, or I'm angry, or I'm jealous. The moment you have that same space between yourself and your mind, as you have between yourself and your body, that is yoga. Right? So now whether you call it mindfulness, these are, but essentially that is what you're after. Can I have that space to say that my mind is sad, just as I have the space to say my back is in pain today? So if my mind is sad, it doesn't mean that I am sad. So that is what you're training in yoga.
Yeah.
You'll train it via the body, you'll train it via the breath, you'll train it via the mind, you'll train it all. And that's the process.
Yeah. There's a word you use, right, for that integration between the...
Yeah.
So, phones in the bedroom, social media before 16 years of age, algorithms designed to keep us hooked. You've watched yoga evolve from something associated with older people to a practice embraced by young youth also. Can a 15-minute meditation really compete with $1 billion algorithms? And what would you genuinely tell a 14-year-old boy on how, not as a yogi, but as someone who once also struggled to focus?
It's interesting you mentioned the age thing. When I started teaching, I was 22 and everybody in my class was 40, 45. There was nobody who was my age unless somebody's daughter or son came in on a particular day to class.
Okay.
But now it's so beautiful because young people, 20s, 30s and beyond are taking to the subject. So that's absolutely right. In terms of what will a 15-minute meditation work against a $1 billion algorithm? Yes, it will. If it reminds you that you have the power to get off that scroll, that's all it takes, right? It just takes a moment to say, okay, I've done this enough. The algorithms are so beautifully addictive, but all it takes is a moment of awareness. And if that has to be trained via a 15-minute meditation, the only challenge is that because we are looking at that meditation also on a screen, if we are smart enough and put off notifications or we take care of our health, that would be. In terms of a 14-year-old, I think a lot of the time scrolling is, even for me, right? Scrolling sometimes happens when you're not surrounded by family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hanging out with friends and you have a few laughs, then you're not really reaching for your phone. So perhaps it's not that the algorithm is so addictive, but it's the fact that we're not spending enough time with family and friends.
Yeah. But also now these days, what I observe is when even these 14, 15-year-olds catch up, they're in a room, but each one is on their phone,
Correct.
you know. So
Correct.
it's a very tricky thing to address and look at it. You know?
I think sometimes the content is so sexy
Yeah.
in the way that it's so addictive, so interesting
Yeah.
that
Also, it just becomes a habit, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you think these days a lot of children are being diagnosed with ADHD and attention disorder? Do you think yoga helps
Yes.
overcome
Yes.
these difficulties?
Exactly. See, like when
How
we
so?
were really before puberty, we could play with one toy for hours together.
Yeah.
You have two sons, you'll know that. As soon as puberty hits and the hormones start to change, the focus goes. If you have not retrained focus, so that's why martial arts or yoga generally begins before.
Yeah.
If you have not retrained focus, today I may be a 45-year-old teenager. In the sense my mind is still so dissipated. I've learned one skill that gives me a livelihood, but the rest of the time the mind's doing its own thing. So that would be like a teenager's mind.
Yeah.
So that training to come back into focus, as long as once in life you can taste silence, you know it's possible, and then you'll keep going back to it. In an instant, maybe you're watching a sunrise or playing with a kid, or the mind is just quiet. When that happens, after a few seconds, when the mind starts talking once more, you know that it was very beautiful and you could exist in spite of your story. Once you know that, then you cannot take the story too seriously. And then you'll keep finding ways to go back there. So that has to happen. The earlier it happens, the better. So if a teenager can sense that absolute bliss of quietness, no algorithm can match that.
Wonderful. I like the way you described it. So what I understand is you're recommending that kids these days should practice yoga from the beginning, rather than waiting for puberty to hit or...
At any point of time, whether it's as a child, that's great, or a little later. The only challenge is that you need to have yoga taught to people in a way that connects. So if somebody is doing yoga for flexibility or for strength or for the physicality, they will work with that. Somebody may not be interested. When I was young, I used to play a lot of football. I didn't need it for the physical side of things. I needed it for focus. So if I were to walk into a yoga class that's dealing with physical fitness, it would not appeal to me. So to have the right teacher to connect to me cerebrally would have been important. For somebody else, it is therapy. So they may not be interested in focus, but they need to solve their back. So you need to have the luck to find the right class and the right group of people who are similarly aspirational.
Millions of people now pour their anxiety into an AI chat box at 2 a.m. instead of actually talking to another human being. So, as a meditation teacher, what can a person offer that a machine never will?
Lived experience. See, a lot of the times, the value of a senior in the house is just that they've lived 20 years more than you. And they may not have had the same challenge, but they've had enough life experience. With AI, it's a large language model, so everything ever written is there. So you may have the wisdom of a Paulo Coelho, you may have the wisdom of a Vivekananda there, but the machine itself has not lived that challenge. That's one. The second is the nervous system reacts to a calming, soothing voice, to a smile on the face, and it calms the nervous system in spite of what the words. So with AI, it's just the words, it's pure data, it's pure thing. And it may try to be a little friendly by calling out my name, but it's not affecting my nervous system as it would with a friend. Once again, if we solve for deeper friendships and stuff like that, we wouldn't be asking AI at 2 in the morning.
Having said that, I agree with you, but it's very hard to find good friends now, actually, in this.
The real challenge is, again, it comes back to focus. Right? My friend is pouring her or his heart out, and I'm thinking about the to-do list. My mom is talking. So the great gift of meditation, in my opinion, is not that you'll see some colors in meditation or you'll see some visions. When my mom is talking to me, I can listen. And I'm not thinking of the next thing to say. That is a valuable gift. Me sitting and seeing pink and then after 3 years purple is irrelevant for me.
So you've taught mindfulness inside companies that arguably profit from stress, even Marlboro. So is corporate wellness genuinely transformative, or it is simply a sophisticated painkiller?
Yeah, it's really fascinating. For many years, I would go sit with the HR people, discuss, and they would share all the data and the problems, and they're genuinely concerned. But so when I would say that, why don't you reduce the targets a little, it'll be all cool. And that was not accepted advice, of course. So I think that if the targets are more reasonable, they wouldn't have to spend extra time and things.
Stress.
That's one. Most people are genuinely concerned because they can see somebody in the team's got a heart attack, or they themselves are going through that. So they're generally concerned, but the corporate culture and so on is designed around profit, which is the economic system we've inherited. So in that context, is it the role of the company to take care of the wellness of all its employees? Yes, but is it just a painkiller? A lot of the times it is. It also depends on, we kind of fetishize CEOs who get up at 3 in the morning and who do nothing else but work. But not everybody is designed like that. So as long as when I step out of my office, I can drop my identity there, that would help a lot.
Surveys suggest that much of the wellness advice flooding our feeds is simply wrong. After more than 2 decades of teaching, what's the one wellness myth you'd like to erase from the internet?
One is that spirituality is a fix for everything in life. That, I don't know if it's a myth, but it's short selling the whole process. That if I just sit with my eyes closed, do some meditation, it's a panacea. No, I got to resolve my jealousy, I got to resolve my overriding ambition and so on and so forth. Life is a beautiful laboratory. If you're hoping that an escape from life will solve life, I don't think it will. So this idea that you can just meditate your way, whether it's through a gong bath or whether it's through a guided meditation or so on and so forth, that doesn't respect the complexity of human life.
Yeah.
None of us are training to be monks. So we're taking a monk solution and throwing it out into a metropolitan city. It's unfair because the goals are different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's now an entire longevity industry selling people more years through pills, biohacks, and endless number of health metrics. And a geriatrician once told me, we've forgotten to ask whether those extra years are worth living, and that a good life comes down to 4 things: grow, connect, adapt, and give. You describe the goal of yoga as kaivalya. So integration, which is integration, and often say yoga ultimately teaches you who you are. So in all our obsession with living longer, have we forgotten how to live well? And is modern wellness really measuring the wrong things?
Yeah, I mean, as long as, see, most longevity is about living well for a long period of time, optimizing the telomere length, so the ice baths, all of that. So a lot of people who are genuinely concerned with longevity, slowly, once the body is fine, will slowly evolve towards understanding who they are, for sure. When I joined my teacher, he told me this. He said, Manish, yoga is meant for people who are tired of happiness. Yeah. I didn't understand it then. 25 years later, I think what he means is that, or he meant was that once you've resolved your nervous system and so on, then you'll ask who you are. In the same way for the longevity experts, once they figure out they've got 10 more years to live, and if they're finding that a lot of their friends are now bedridden or so on and so forth, they will question, and so that's fine. If you get 10 more years of life, how beautiful would those questions be? No problem with that. Whether you're losing out on quality of life, it's tough to say. That's being extremely judgmental against the longevity people. Truth be told, anybody would like to live a day more. So I think it's unfair. Just that the longer you live, the more interesting the questions get. And those questions will lead you to asking who you truly are.
And what do you think in today's modern time and modern wellness? What's going wrong?
Well, it's not, the problem is not with modern wellness. The problem is, perhaps, if there is a problem, it's with modern life. So when we were growing up, Neha, you'll remember that we had, say, a Mother Teresa, who was a role model. Yeah, today, my nephew has no such role model. The role models are sports people, which is nice, musicians, which is nice, but there's more to life than the kind of thoughts expressed via those people. So all the role models are in their 20s, 30s, early 40s perhaps. You don't have a role model like a Nelson Mandela, a Mother Teresa, and that makes for a much poorer world.
Yeah.
So the options of success seem to be about fame and a lot of money. But if we can solve for that by being more sort of inclusive of people making a change, that'd be great.
I didn't even look at it in this perspective. So, you also coach some Olympic athletes.
Yeah.
So what's one mental habit that separates champions from everyone else?
They are able to shut out the noise, and they are very, very focused from a young age. Till I didn't train, I was training Kenny Bednarik, who won the silver medal in the 200 meters, both at Paris and Tokyo. I was coaching him specifically for visualization, to be able to run well. So, for Paris. So it was very interesting because for an athlete at that caliber, their whole life is geared towards every 4 years at the Olympics and, of course, the World Championships and so on. So it took me, very quickly I could appreciate how your life can be, it's in line with the idea of yoga, discipline. Yeah. But it also brings in the perspective of understanding success and failure at that stage, and to realize, so we would train an athlete to understand beyond the medal that you are an inspiration to so many people who would have watched the Olympics for the very first time, children. So you're an inspiration to them. You're an inspiration to people like us in our 40s who perhaps have compromised too much or given up on dreams. So you see there's a 25-year-old chasing their dream, and for a 20-year-old to say that, okay, it's fine to chase your dream. So that idea of being an inspiration is what we worked with.
Sure.
That you cannot control whether you'll be on the podium or no, but you can control the way you show up, that anybody can get inspired by you. So that is
Wonderful.
what we do.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you about the failure part, but you've already answered it. So you've spoken about yoga's ability to heal almost all aspects of life. What's the one thing it didn't fix for you?
When I started doing yoga, I thought that in a few years, 7 years, 10 years, I would have sorted it all out. Unfortunately, no. But it also means that it's such a beautiful life.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, I was heartbroken. And when you have the thought of, say, a heartbreak, one thought entering your mind that you don't want there. So you try many ways to shut it out, doesn't go. But to understand this one uninvited guest, you will need to understand the nature of your house itself. The amount it taught me, no amount of psychology, no amount of yoga, meditation, theoretically could ever teach me. So many years ago, I had a student who said, Manish, you're always smiling. I'd like to see you when you're sad. I thought, what an irritating, what an idiot. But now I get if there's no suffering, then life has been unkind to you. It has not given you an opportunity to figure out your house.
Yeah. So as we get older, research increasingly tells us that recovery and sleep matter more, not less. Yet most of us still equate rest with laziness, stillness, with wasted time. From a yogi's perspective, why is doing less so difficult? And how do you teach someone who's wired to hustle that stillness is where the real growth begins?
See, there's a very beautiful story that in the biblical traditions,
Okay.
that God made the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th.
Yeah.
Right? That which you call God never gets tired, is all powerful. But the fact that the rest has been given implies that it is a part of the creative process. That creativity can only happen from a rested individual.
Yeah.
In the Indian traditions, we have, Vishnu lying in Yoga Nidra. Without rest, there's no creativity. In the modern time, we have mistaken productivity for creativity. I could be working the whole day and produce absolute rubbish. And all it takes is one good idea. But for that, I need to be rested so that I'm not operating only from the conscious mind. So as long as we can distinguish between productivity and creativity. This is how my yoga journey began. My creative director brought a jar to the office and said, whatever work you have done, write a chit and put it in. The first day I realized that I've not done anything worthwhile in spite of being 10 hours in the office. And that's when I started yoga. So the difference between creativity and productivity was very clear for me. So that has to be.
And I keep noticing now that you give references of Vishnu, Gita. So have you read?
Yeah, it's an occupational hazard.
Okay.
And I'm joking. No, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Okay.
I come at it from a questioning mind. As luck or as life would have it, I'm not a believer, and that gives me a ability to be fully immersed in my culture without believing, and therefore the value of the Gita or any of those books across world cultures is not that it is the word of God, but does it have any value in my life? And if it has value in my life, it's wisdom.
Yeah.
Else it's not. So that what I share is what I've taken from those with that mindset, as opposed to any and everything that has just been written.
No, I totally agree with you because I've done Gita myself. And I feel like it doesn't leave you. You keep going back to it and thinking about. Yes, it's beautiful. Quick wellness tips from you, if you don't mind. Half the internet is doing ice baths and cold plunges, but even Ayurveda says that cooling should never shock your body. So who's got it right according to you?
See, a lot of Ayurveda research is quoted from hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
So if the Ayurveda principles are brought into modern research, and because that time they were not talking about telomere length and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So it is dependent on certain principles, and this is also dependent on certain observations. So the point is that research should be matched with research of the same time in life. And maybe Ayurveda brings a perspective that is being missed, but they have to talk to each other. We cannot have today's science talk with something that's come from the past.
Yeah.
So it has to be matched in time. So I don't know who's getting it right or wrong. They're probably both getting it right from their perspective. And you go with one and
I like the way you explained it. So, what do you say? Why do you say a calm mind starts at your feet, not your head?
because it's the football World Cup just now. But we always say that when you're moving, generally it's much better for the mind.
Yeah.
I could not understand why people run. And I train an athlete. And then finally I understood, people told me that after 5-6 kilometers, the mind becomes quiet. I think modern mind is moving so much that you need to move the body, and then it comes to a state of calm.
Yeah.
Once it comes to a state of calm, you can sit forever.
Is there a 5-second trick to cool down when you're irritated or overstimulated?
Sure. There are two things. One is scientifically seen. You take a deep breath. So you want to try that?
Yeah.
So it's called a physiological sigh. You'll take a deep breath. At the end of that inhalation, you'll take a second inhalation, and then you'll sigh out. So we'll do that. So breathe in.
Can I see you first?
Yeah. I'll breathe in.
Yeah.
Again in.
Ah.
Yeah, so that is supposed to reduce or rather calm you down much more than any meditation. So you'll try that?
Yeah.
So breathe in. Again in. And try that once more. Breathe in. So that's a really good hack.
Yeah.
The other hack is just to move the body. So if you're standing here and you can just shake the body.
Yeah.
Apparently animals, after they've been chased, they shake
Yeah.
so that the cortisol kind of drains out. So that could be a very good physical hack.
Yeah.
And the third one could be just to shout, but that's not practical all the time. But a lot of the times our stress is because we're not saying what we need to say. So either of those, whichever suits you.
Yeah. Thank you for showing us that. So if one wakes up at 2 a.m., hot and wired, phone glowing right next to you, what should you do instead?
When you go to sleep itself, the phone should be in the other room, firstly. Secondly, I don't know. It's not happened to me in a while. So I'm just trying to think through. Maybe one of the ways could be to take a walk, if that's practical enough. Definitely not get onto the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it means just maybe taking a shower or something, you could switch on a candle and look. We call it tratak. So you're looking at the flame for say 7-8 minutes and then closing your eyes. You'll see the flame here. That can tire the eyes and soothe the mind, and you can go back to sleep.
Wonderful. Thank you. Most people treat summer as the season to do more.
Okay.
Longer days, more plans, more hustle. Do you think we should actually be doing less to feel better?
In summers, it depends. No? Some people are more heaty,
Yeah.
and then they get overstimulated in summer. And some people do better in summer, the ones who are, in Ayurveda, we call that Vata.
Pitta,
And
yeah.
the previous one was Pitta. So it just depends season to season.
Right. And in India, winter is the season of jackets, celebrations, dressing up. So how does a yogi stay warm, healthy, and make the most of the winter?
See, people like me are just yoga teachers. Yeah, when someday we'll go trek in the Himalayas, and you'll see these beautiful yogis, absolutely naked, just with ash on their body, in the snows. When we go trekking, we've got jackets and all of this. And you'll see them, it's not an ice bath. They're not doing it for like 10 minutes. They're living their whole life, the whole winter, in that environment. So that amount of fire, tapa they have is incredible. I'm not qualified to speak about them. From a simple hack perspective, what we would do is we call it Surya Bed Pranayama. So you'll inhale. You want to try that? Yes, you
Will I
inhale.
be able to?
Yeah, generally we'll use the right hand if that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
So you'll inhale from the right,
Okay.
close both the nostrils, holding the breath in, and then exhale from the left. And then we keep repeating that. Inhale
Okay.
right, close.
And then the other side.
No, always this way.
Oh, okay.
Always right. So that's the Surya Nadi. So that is set to stimulate a little bit of the fire.
Okay.
And then just creatively closing your eyes, visualizing fire and so on. Then there are other things you can do with food. You can have more spice and so on and so forth. It's very good to have a candle. So you train. The one thing missing in modern life is fire. A lot of people feel that they need to calm down. I think most people actually need to be fired up. They're just too comatose.
Thank you so much for joining me today, and I've learned a lot from you today. Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure, Neha. Thanks for having me on the podcast, and I hope your listeners benefit.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Today, Manish taught us that clarity comes not from doing more, but from understanding ourselves better. If this episode moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the New Indian Express. Until we see you next time.